The sharp knock on my dorm room door at midnight jolted me from my textbooks. When I opened it, an elderly woman with silver hair and kind but determined eyes pulled me into a tight hug and whispered, "My dear daughter-in-law, I've finally found you." I stood there frozen, my heart pounding as the pieces clicked into place. She was Lorelei's mother, the woman whose existence I dreaded for 6 years while keeping our love a complete secret from everyone, including my own family. Her name was Mrs. Evelyn Thompson, and the way she said those words with such warmth made my stomach drop like I'd missed the last step on a staircase. I pulled back gently, scanning the empty hallway of the University of California dorm, terrified someone from my floor might have heard. "Ma'am, I think there's been a mistake," I stammered, but she just smiled through tears and stepped inside, closing the door behind her like she belonged there. "No mistake, Harper. Lorelei told me everything before she went into surgery yesterday. She's going to be okay, but she wanted you to know your family now." "Surgery?" My mind raced back to the last text from Lorelei, something vague about feeling tired after her shift at the hospital lab. We'd been careful, 6 years of stolen weekends, coded messages, late-night drives up the coast where no one knew us. I was Harper Nguyen, the straight-A law student whose Vietnamese-American parents still prayed every Sunday that I'd marry a nice boy from church and give them grandchildren to carry on the family name. Revealing I loved a woman would shatter that. And now Lorelei's mom was here, calling me daughter-in-law like it was the most natural thing in the world. She sat on my unmade bed and pulled out a faded photo from her purse, Lorelei and me at 20, laughing on the Santa Monica Pier the summer we met at freshman orientation. She kept this hidden in her drawer. "I found it months ago, but I waited. I knew the fear you both carried." Her voice cracked. "My girl is strong, but she needs you right now. And I need to know my future daughter-in-law." I sank into my desk chair, the room spinning. 6 years of hiding had taught me control. Fake smiles at family dinners, deleting texts before bed, inventing boyfriends named Alex, who conveniently lived out of state. My father, a respected community elder in Little Saigon, had built his life on honor and tradition. One whisper of this and the gossip would spread like wildfire through the temple, the grocery stores, the Sunday potlucks. My mother would stop speaking to me. My younger brother, already engaged to the perfect traditional girl, would lose face. And my law internship at the conservative firm downtown? Gone before I even started. Yet here was this stranger offering acceptance I'd never dared dream of. "How did you find me?" I asked, voice barely above a whisper. Mrs. Thompson reached for my hand. "Lorelei gave me your dorm address when the pain got bad. She said if anything happened, you were the one who'd know what to do." The weight of it crushed me. I'd spent years protecting us from both our worlds, Lorelei's quiet acceptance of her own single life, my family's iron expectations, and now the door I'd bolted shut was wide open. That night I didn't sleep. I paced the tiny room while Mrs. Thompson dozed in my chair, replaying every moment I'd chosen silence. The first kiss in the library stacks after a late study session. The whispered promises during drives to Big Sur where the cliffs hid us from the world. The way Lorelei's laugh made every risk feel worth it. But risks had consequences, and tomorrow I'd have to face them. Because if Lorelei woke up from surgery expecting me at her side as family, I'd have to decide. Step into the light or let the darkness swallow us both. By morning the dorm hallway buzzed with normal college noise. Doors slamming, coffee makers gurgling. But nothing felt normal anymore. Mrs. Thompson insisted on breakfast at the campus cafe, and I couldn't refuse without seeming cruel. Over lukewarm eggs she told me more. Lorelei had kept our secret even from her, until the appendicitis scare forced the truth out in a hospital haze. "She called your name in her sleep, Harper. A mother knows." I stared at my untouched toast, the guilt twisting tighter. Lorelei had protected me for years, letting me set the pace, never pushing for public dates or double lives that could leak back to my parents. I excused myself to call the hospital, heart hammering as I learned visiting hours started at 9. Mrs. Thompson offered to drive, but I needed air. Walking across campus alone, I dialed Lorelei's number even though I knew she wouldn't answer. The voicemail hit me hard, her voice bright and teasing. "Hey, it's me. Leave a message or I'll assume you're ignoring me again." I hung up without speaking. 6 years of ignoring her in public, pretending we were just study buddies when my roommate asked, dodging questions at Thanksgiving by claiming I was too busy with exams. Back in my room, I pulled out the box under my bed. The one with every card. Every pressed flower from our hidden anniversaries. The first one read, "To my Harper, 6 months and forever to go." I'd cried reading it then, terrified my parents would somehow sense the happiness radiating off me when I came home for winter break. Dad had eyed me suspiciously across the dinner table. "You seem different, Kangai. Happy. Is there a boy?" I'd lied so smoothly it scared me. Now those lies were circling back like sharks. Mrs. Thompson returned with coffee and a quiet determination. "Lorelei wants to tell your family herself when she's stronger. She's tired of hiding." The words landed like stones. Tell them? My mind flashed to my mother's face the day she found an old rainbow pin in my laundry, how she'd quietly thrown it away without a word, then spent weeks inviting every eligible son of family friends over for dinner. My father's lectures on duty, on the sacrifices immigrants made so their children could live with pride. Pride meant straight married producing heirs. Anything else was betrayal. I drove to the hospital in silence, Mrs. Thompson humming softly beside me like this was normal. When we reached Lorelei's room, she was awake, pale but smiling that crooked smile that had hooked me since day one. "Harper," she breathed, reaching out. I took her hand, aware of her mother watching with soft approval. For the first time in 6 years, someone from our world saw us together without shock or disgust. It should have felt freeing. Instead, terror clawed up my throat. Because outside this room waited my entire life. Internship interviews next week, my brother's engagement party where I was expected to bring a date, the family group chat already planning Lunar New Year. One slip and the dominoes would fall. Lorelei squeezed my fingers. "Mom knows. And she's okay with it." Her eyes searched mine, hopeful. I smiled back, but inside I was already calculating escape routes, ways to keep this contained, to protect the people who'd raised me even if it meant hurting the woman I loved. Mrs. Thompson excused herself for coffee, giving us a moment. Lorelei whispered, "We don't have to hide anymore, Harper. Not from my side." I nodded, but the lie tasted bitter. Hiding wasn't just habit. It was survival. And survival meant choosing whose world I burned down first. The next 48 hours blurred into a nightmare of half-truths. I called my parents and said a friend needed help after surgery. Technically true, but the guilt burned. Mom's voice brightened on the phone. "Bring her home for dinner sometime. We miss seeing your friends." I almost laughed at the irony. Lorelei recovered fast, and by day 3 she was walking the hospital halls with me, Mrs. Thompson trailing like a proud chaperone. Every time our hands brushed, I pulled away, scanning for familiar faces even though we were miles from Little Saigon. Lorelei noticed. In a quiet corner of the garden, she stopped me. "You're pulling away again." "Like always." Her voice carried 6 years of swallowed frustration. "I almost died, Harper. Or at least it felt like it. And all I could think about was you not knowing how much I love you out loud." I looked at the ground, the weight of her mother's acceptance pressing against the wall I'd built around my own family. It's not that simple. My dad still thinks I'm going to marry someone like Cousin Min's son. If this gets out, he'll lose the respect he's spent 30 years earning. She stepped closer, eyes fierce. "So we keep lying forever? Until we're 40 and miserable." Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. My brother texting a photo of his fiancée and her die for the engagement photos. "Family is counting on you to be there next weekend. Bring that Alex guy if he's real." The message felt like a slap. I showed it to Lorelei. She read it and went quiet, the kind of quiet that preceded storms. "I can't keep being your secret, Harper. Not after Mom knows. It makes me feel cheap." That night back in the dorm, Mrs. Thompson cooked pho on a hot plate she'd bought, filling the room with smells that reminded me of home. We ate together like a real family, laughing about old stories Lorelei told of her clumsy attempts to learn Vietnamese just to impress me. For 2 hours I let myself imagine a life without the double bookkeeping, introducing Lorelei at holidays, holding her hand at my brother's wedding. Then my phone rang. "Dad." I stepped into the hallway. "Harper, your mother is worried. You sound strange lately. Everything okay at school?" His tone carried the unspoken question. "Are you still on the right path?" I lied again smoothly and hung up shaking. When I returned, Lorelei was watching me with sad eyes. "You're going to choose them, aren't you?" I didn't answer. Instead, I kissed her forehead and whispered goodnight. But sleep wouldn't come. The betrayal wasn't hers, it was mine every time I chose silence. And tomorrow I had to drive home for a family lunch, leaving Lorelei and her mother behind like they were the secret instead of the truth. The family lunch was a minefield disguised as spring rolls and laughter. My mother hugged me too long, searching my face for whatever she sensed was off. "You're too thin from all that studying. When are you bringing a nice boy home?" I forced a laugh and changed the subject to my brother's wedding plans. He clapped me on the back. "Don't worry, sis, we saved you a seat at the head table. Maybe you'll meet someone there." The pressure sat on my chest like concrete. I left early claiming study group and drove straight to Lorelei's apartment instead of the dorm. Mrs. Thompson had gone home but left a note. "Family is who we choose too." Lorelei opened the door and pulled me inside without a word. We held each other on the couch for hours, the kind of quiet that said everything we couldn't voice. "I told my mom I want to come to your brother's engagement party," she said finally. "As your girlfriend." My blood ran cold. "You can't. They'd never understand." Her face hardened, the first real crack in 6 years. "Then when, Harper? After graduation? After your internship? When your parents retire? I'm tired of being the ghost in your life." The argument escalated fast. She accused me of cowardice. I accused her of not understanding what family honor meant in my world. Words flew like knives, betrayals born of fear. I left slamming the door, tears blurring the highway home. The next morning my internship supervisor called. "Harper, there's a rumor floating around the firm about your personal life. Someone saw you at the hospital with another woman. Care to explain?" My stomach dropped. The conservative partners valued traditional values. One wrong step and the offer letter I'd worked 3 years for would vanish. I denied everything, voice steady, but inside I was unraveling. That night Lorelei texted, "Mom wants to meet your parents. She thinks it'll help." I didn't reply. Instead I drove to the beach alone and screamed into the wind until my throat burned. 2 days later my brother showed up at my dorm unannounced. "Mom found a text on your old phone backup. Something about Lorelei. Who is she, Harper? And why does it sound like more than friends?" His eyes held disappointment, not anger yet. I lied again, claiming she was a study partner. He left unconvinced. The betrayal chain was tightening. Lorelei pushing, my family suspecting, my career teetering. I sat on the floor and cried for the first time in years, realizing the secret I protected so fiercely was now protecting no one. The rumor mill at the firm spun faster than I could contain. My supervisor pulled me aside again, this time with a warning. "We value discretion here, Harper. Fix it." I nodded like a robot, then drove to Lorelei's in a panic. She opened the door looking exhausted. "Harper, Mom's been calling your parents' church pretending to be a friend from school. She thinks if they hear good things about us first," I exploded. "You let her do what? That's my family you're messing with." Lorelei stepped back like I'd slapped her. "I'm trying to help. You're the one who keeps choosing them over us." The fight was uglier this time, years of resentment pouring out. She accused me of using her as an emotional crutch while I played the perfect daughter. I accused her of forcing my hand when I wasn't ready. In the heat of it I said the unforgivable. "Maybe we should have stayed hidden." Her face crumpled. She turned away. "Get out, Harper." I drove home in shock, the irreversible crack widening between us. My mother called that night, voice trembling. "A woman named Evelyn left a message at the temple. She said she's the mother of your special friend. Harper, what is going on?" I hung up and stared at the ceiling until dawn. The next day my brother texted the family group chat. "Harper needs space right now. Let's give it to her." Translation. They were circling wagons, protecting the family name. At the internship my mentor sat me down. The partners heard whispers. "They're holding your offer pending a background check. Fix whatever this is." Career on life support, family closing ranks, and Lorelei not answering my calls. I traded everything for silence and lost it all anyway. Mrs. Thompson showed up at my dorm again, eyes sad. "Lorelei is hurting, but she still loves you. Don't throw it away because of fear." I wanted to believe her. But fear had been my compass for 6 years, and now it was leading me straight off a cliff. The engagement party was the breaking point. I stood in my parents' backyard surrounded by relatives in silk dye, smiling through questions about my future husband. My brother's fiancée beamed beside him, the picture of traditional perfection. Then my phone buzzed. Lorelei. I'm outside. We need to talk. Now. Heart hammering, I slipped away and found her on the sidewalk, beautiful and determined in a simple black dress. I'm done waiting, Harper. Either we walk in there together or I walk away forever. Mrs. Thompson waited in the car, giving us space. I looked at the house where I'd grown up learning that family honor was everything. Then I looked at Lorelei, the woman who'd loved me through every lie. In that moment the choice crystallized, irreversible and terrifying. I took her hand. Let's go inside. The room fell silent when we entered together. My father's face drained of color. My mother dropped her teacup. Whispers rippled like shock waves. I spoke clearly, voice shaking but steady. This is Lorelei, the woman I love. I've hidden her for 6 years because I was scared of losing all of you. But I can't hide anymore. Chaos erupted, my brother shouting, aunts gasping, dad walking out without a word. The party ended in tears and slammed doors. 3 months later the dust had settled into painful new shapes. My internship offer was withdrawn quietly. My parents still spoke to me, but dinners were strained, conversations clipped. My brother's wedding invitations went out without my name on the family table. Lorelei and I moved in together, her mother visiting often with quiet support. The price was real. Reputation damaged, career stalled, relationships fractured. Yet waking up beside the woman I no longer had to hide felt like breathing for the first time. Was it worth it? I still don't know some days. But I know this: silence almost killed us both. True or false? Family honor should always come before personal truth?